If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is for you. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Just take a moment and let's just expand the universe a little bit, shall we?
You must unlearn what you have learned.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Coffee with Kenobi presents Legends Library.
There's always a bit of truth in legends.
Routine information is not repeat, not simply shouted in the general direction of its intended recipient. Is that clear?
To defeat an enemy, you must know them.
Now here are your hosts, Luke Siders and Randy Thirio.
But enough of this. You've come a long way to challenge me. Make a worthy effort.
Hey everyone, I'm Randy.
And I'm Luke.
And you are listening to Legends Library. We're a podcast dedicated to the Legends line of Star Wars books. Luke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Very cool, very cool. We're about at our point of recording right now, or our time of recording right now, we're about a week and a day away from the new Rebels season. What are you looking forward to the most?
Come on. What are you asking for?
Thrawn? What are you looking at, Thrawn? I don't know, Thrawn.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty excited. I just hope they do it right.
Yeah. I don't care if they do it right. Just do it.
Yeah.
I know that. I just, at this point, there's enough anticipation where it's like, I don't care if it's right or wrong, just whatever it is, I just want to see it.
Yeah.
Some of the other trailers, like mini trailers that have come out, little teasers. There's a Bogan character and a big old huge character that plays kind of a celestial being, and that looks really cool. Kind of looks like a giant yak. So everyone knows that yaks are strong with the Force. If you've ever been on a yak farm, you know that. I've never been on a yak farm.
Mortis thing or something?
I'm just saying. What's that?
Isn't it supposed to be like a Mortis thing or something like that?
Yeah, kind of a Mortis-y kind of yak Mortis thing.
Yeah.
So I think at the end, like, Kanan like milks him, or I don't know. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Totally kidding. I have no idea. I hope that wasn't a spoiler. So anything else? I'm getting the impression that all of the trailers, all the information that we're seeing so far, is just like the first like 2 or 3 or 4 episodes, maybe from the first arc. There's a whole bunch after that we probably have no idea what is about to hit us.
Yeah, no, not. It's been kind of like a nice break, I guess, from Star Wars. I don't know. It's been like a month since really much has happened. So, but I mean, it's kind of nice because we're going to get a bunch of it soon in a couple months here.
Yeah, and
sometimes you need a little break, you know.
We do. It's like a
you
palate
get
cleanser.
Yeah.
So
man, we got a couple more months in Rogue One.
I know. Are you looking forward to that? I mean, of course, we're all looking forward to it.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Not as much as Force Awakens, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe it's best that I go into it like that.
I can't
Harder
wait
to be disappointed when you're not going all crazy about it.
That's true. Like, the Forrest Whitaker character is so intriguing to me. The character that says there is no everything is as the Force wills it. I'm curious about that. I think it's going to be cool. I don't think that it does have the hype that that Force Awakens did, but that was it was such a big deal that it was the first, and it was like kind of groundbreaking, and it's kind of kickstarting the new season of movies here. And I don't think that anything could measure up to that. Of course, besides Avatar, but
yeah,
it's the only movie that did even come close. But
we'll all go see it. We'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Anything going on in your neck of the woods in your fandom?
I mean, one Saturday we were cleaning, so I was going through the TV, and there was on Disney XD. There was some Lego brick, I don't know, some Lego Star Wars show for kids. Watched an episode of that, and it's kind of hard to watch, but
okay.
So I watched that, delved into that Star Wars universe a little bit.
Okay, I heard it's kind of cool.
It was okay. I mean, I don't know.
It's not
maybe
like
if I was watching it with one of my kids, and we, a little different. Just me sitting on the couch watching it.
That's cool. Anything else going on with you?
Not with Star Wars, not really. No. We're just kind of getting ready for we're in the busy season right now, so. School started, sports starting, all that.
I gotcha.
Football.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Right now, this is how busy I am. I've been taking in so much Star Wars Legends material. Right now I'm in the midst of, I'm at like 100 and something pages into Vector Prime. And I'm in book 3 now. I started just a few weeks ago. Maybe about a week and a half ago, with Legacy of the Force. So I've read Betrayal, I've read Bloodlines, or listened to, not read, that should be honest. And then I'm at Tempest right now. And that series, I loved it. I've always loved it. It's my favorite series, but it just blows me away. Just I totally get what people say about like the main characters as far as Han Solo. And their voice, his voicing, and what he's, how he was written. And I get that that's annoying, but if you can put up with the first couple chapters, and just let it slide until you allow yourself to kind of get immersed in that particular book series, it is just lights out awesome. And so I'm hoping someday we get a chance to, to review those books, because it would be a year. It's like a 9-book series, so it would be a commitment.
Yeah.
But somehow to get there, we've got to go through the Yuuzhan Vong series, which is the New Jedi Order, which is 19 books, which we've talked about in the past. Just doing the hardcover books that came out, which would be kind of cool. It would only be, I think, 5 books, 5 or 6 or something like that, which would be a little bit more easier, or a little bit easier to digest, but still, that's a daunting task in itself. But
someday we'll have to do it.
What's that?
We're gonna run out of books eventually, so we'll have to do it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we are running out of Zahn books, but
only have 2-3 left actually.
Yeah. So, and speaking of upcoming books, I thought it'd be really cool that we give the schedule for the next few months, closing out the end of the year and kicking off the new year. Do you want to go ahead? We had a contest this month, didn't we?
Yeah, yep. We for the first time we had our contest, for our listeners. We called it Legends Library Card 16. That was the hashtag on Twitter. So we had people apply to basically join our show, and I wrote all the names down on a sheet, and then I texted you and had you pick a number, and our winner for the contest was Lisa Mountain, and she suggested Rise of Darth Vader for our next book.
Yeah, Matthew Stover, right?
No, it's James Luceno.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So, and that's one that we've talked about before, so that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, and it's going to be a cool. 2 things. It's going to be really cool to have somebody join us that we've never met before. And it's really cool to have somebody, someone that's a listener, kind of join us, which is really cool. And I think that's going to be a ton of fun. A little, just playing some jazz, just a little bit of improv there. And so it'll be really cool to meet Lisa, and hear her perspective. And to go through that book, because I've listened to it once before, and it's really cool. So I'm looking forward to next month, just talking with Lisa Mountain. So Lisa, congratulations, you're our winner. You're our 2016 Legends Library Card winner.
Yep.
And we will post that on Twitter, and there's a really cool image that'll go along with that. You guys will see that here in a couple days. So by the time this is posted, this podcast is posted, hopefully that we got a little library card for you that we want to show everyone. Pretty cool. So
yeah. And then real quick, I want to thank everybody else who applied too. We had we saw obviously all the books and everybody that applied, and you guys gave some great books, some great duologies and stuff that were giving us suggestions. So, I mean, it was pretty cool when we were picking. It was like, man, this can go either way. There's a lot of good books in here, and thanks to everybody else for applying.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so awesome to have a two-way conversation. Just to know that there are listeners out there that still are listening to these books and are reading these books and still listening to us.
Yeah.
All the new stuff that's coming out, there's still a huge love for these old characters and these old books and this old universe thread, expanded thread, if you will. So November is going to be cool. Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained is Star Wars Minute has changed to Star Wars Explained, and we're going to be reviewing the book Rogue Squadron, which is really cool. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, Alex had a chance to interview Michael Stackpole from your neck of the woods. Alex bumped into Michael Stackpole at Dragon Con, I believe. And so there's about a 20-minute interview. So if you guys are interested, check that out. And we have a special treat in December. Published author Samantha Eklund, who's a good friend of mine. I narrated one of her books that it'll be published here in just a couple weeks on audible.com and Amazon. She's written a book called in the beginning, and so it's a really cool book, really awesome. But we're going to be talking about, she's a female author, and so we thought it would be really cool to talk Timothy Zahn's Allegiance with Samantha and kind of get an author's perspective. So I'm really looking forward to that because Samantha is such a good friend, and she's got a really cool creative mind, and we've had a lot of fun talking about her books. And so I invited her to come join Luke and I to talk about our books, the books that we're into.
All right. And then for January, we're going to do Choices of One, which is the second half of that. Do you even call it a duology, I guess, at this point? They basically go hand in hand. It's what are those guys called? Lerone and his group. Yep. It's like the second part of their story.
Yeah, and at this point it's a duology because it's a continuation, but there's no closure to it.
It's a cool series though. I like it, and I'm pretty excited. But that's as far as we've gotten. So we're gonna work at figuring out what do we do past that point.
Yeah. But we do have quite a few books planned. So I have heard, I have seen that there's some people that have requested the Legacy of the Force series, but we'll see what happens there. But we'll kind of work it out. Right now, we've got 4 months ahead planned, and we got this book ahead of us, and we've got a long one tonight. So why don't we head over to our book review? What do you say, Luke?
All right, let's do it. All right, everybody, let's start the book review. And where do we begin? I mean, I don't know if you read the book or if you did the audio book, but this was long. I mean, I barely finished right before this podcast, and I was cranking it out. And I didn't even take a break. Sometimes, with the books, I take a break on the way to work and I'll listen to music or something. This time, every day, I was like, I got to listen to it. I got to listen on the way to work, on the way home. I listened for like 3 hours at work every day this week, trying to catch up because it got away from me. And it's 26 hours.
Yeah.
And because of that, I don't know about you, but let's go back to the beginning of this book.
Let's do it.
We have multiple situations. We have Luke Skywalker just landing on, was it Nirwan? To find Mara Jade and help her out. We have that plot line. We have Han and Leia, going on their little vacation to Packard Minor. And then we have Talon Card and Shada Dukal going on their journey to find George Cardis.
Yeah.
Pellion's sitting out in the middle of space, just hanging out, waiting for
Bell
Iblis.
Uh-huh.
And then, I mean, there's the trio of me and Randy. We were texting each other. We called them Three Stooges at one point. You called them the Three Amigos. And,
yeah. So it's Moff Deezra, Flim, and
Grodin Tierce. Major Grodin Tierce.
Yeah.
So we have all these situations going on. Where do you want to start? Because I think we can just go either one, and we got a long ways to go.
Well, let's go ahead and start with Luke and Mara. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead. Do you want to knock them out as pieces?
Yeah, let's just go. Let's take each thread one at a time.
That's the easiest way. There's no way I can keep track.
So
26 hours. I mean, I don't even know what I ate 26 hours ago.
That's true. And I'll tell you, I finished this book. I don't know who's better off, you who just finished it or me. I finished it like a week and a half ago, and so and listened to like all these 3 books since then. So
yeah,
but I've listened to it before, so there's a familiarity there, especially kind of an overall thing. Maybe you're bringing the details, and I'm bringing kind of an overall overview kind of thing, but so Luke ends up running into these people. They're not people. They're like creatures. And they're not actually talking the Quamquay. Listen to you. You know all this stuff, the details. You're always a detail guy. So the Quamquay, they don't actually talk, but they're talking in the Force to Luke. And then eventually Luke does find Mara Jade, because he was going to Nirwan to rescue Mara. He's had this vision that of Mara Jade kind of lifelessly floating in water, and so he's afraid that that's her death. So he's going. He went by himself, and he's going to save Mara on this planet. So there's a lot of really like intense emotional scenes. I feel like one of the bummer deals about this whole thing are those little characters that kind of are helping along the way, almost like whenever they find themselves in a situation where they're never going to get out of it. It was like too easy that they're bailed out by these little creatures, and they're annoying. Their names were annoying. They're named by how they were known. The performance was kind of not very pleasant, especially if you had earphones in. It was just frustrating, but there are some really cool, like really intensely emotional scenes along the way. Mm-hmm. And one of them is Mara Jade is injured in the tunnels. Mara Jade is injured, and Luke has to put Mara into a kind of a healing trance.
Yeah, that's when they get into the castle.
Yeah, and they're
shot at or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and there's this scene, and I think it's really profound that, and what it brought up was the relationship that Anakin had with Padme. And the nature of their relationship was that Anakin needed Padme. That there was this like selfishness to his love for her. He loved her because he needed her, or he loved her because it was just a self-serving selfishness. And while Luke put Mara in this healing trance, there's inner dialogue that Timothy Zahn kind of exposes to the reader about just Luke's heart for her, and his instead he chooses in that moment while he's watching her being healed over a couple days or whatever it is, he's kind of contemplating the nature of his relationship with her, and he gets to this place where he says basically he's going to serve her. And it's like this, at that point, their relationship as a couple starts to really develop. I feel like that's kind of like the moment where a step is taken, and Luke takes that first step by kind of releasing her. And it's kind of like this really cool, unselfish kind of love, where he just kind of releases her to the Force and releases her to whatever happens in the future. Maybe it's me, maybe it's not, but there's not that selfish need. And I feel like from that point forward, it's okay to have a relationship, because Luke has already struggled with all of these relationships in the expanded universe and in the Legends storyline. And it's always come to like this crashing, like awful end. All of these, the Callista and, how there's a couple other characters that he has relationships with, and it just falls flat because I don't think he understands how to juggle that whole Jedi / relationship connection thing. But I feel like he finally figures it out right here when he's watching her kind of being healed. And I thought that it was a very fast moment, and it kind of passed by in a book in the middle of this huge book. But I thought it was a very profound moment, both for them and for relationships and Jedi relationships for the future. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you remember that, or if that was something that kind of stood out for you, or if there's other.
No,
Go ahead.
No, I do. I mean, and there was like points throughout our story arc where they would like stop, and I know before then when they were going through the caves and then there was the fire creepers and stuff, and there was points where they would sit down and talk, and she basically told him that he was being snobby and thinking that he could save the world, and he's got to just let stuff happen, let people make mistakes, and just stop trying to save everybody, stop getting in people's head. And I think I got through to him, and that's, one of the points also where they got closer, and then he went in a healing trance, and then she started, think about him too. And there was multiple parts in their story arc, I think, where they were growing in connection.
And the fact that they were kind of doing some version of like a battle melding or like a fight melding where they're taking on
each other's head and stuff.
Yeah, and more than anybody else. I felt like it was kind of like Timothy Zahn's kind of like he was a dude writing a love story, and so it wasn't that intimate as far as like they found out that they had a really deep connection in the Force, and it wasn't like this and I think it was in its right place in a sci-fi book, a sci-fi fantasy
you didn't feel like it was forced or something.
It wasn't
like out of place,
50 Shades of Thrawn or whatever. It wasn't like it was just like, okay, they have this special connection, and there's not a lot even in in Empire, which is the most or the heaviest of a love story. It's still there's not a lot of like it's passing scenes. There's not a lot of like really deep, even when they are face to face and there's and they're about to kiss, there's C-3PO kind of breaks in, and so this particular storyline between Mara and Luke kind of fits that thing where it's there, it's spoken, the foundations and the little intricacies are a little bit visible, but it's like, and then in the end they end up in love or whatever. But they actually find the Hand of Thrawn, and the Hand of Thrawn, which they were thinking it was a person, some weapon or whatever, and it ended up to be a fortress that had 5 towers, and it was kind of shaped like an open hand, and that's where the Hand of Thrawn came. That's where the name of the Hand of Thrawn came to be, and they found that, and there was like there's a cloning facility and all that kind of stuff, so they were able to destroy the cloning facility, and then they also.
What about the conversation?
Conversation
with Boss Park and Baron Fell. I thought that was one of the coolest parts.
Oh, with
that whole arc where Mara Jade goes to talk with him, and Voss Park is there, and he's been gone for so long, and he basically explains why they're out there and what Thrawn was doing, and he wasn't actually like exiled, and the whole mission of being out there, and
he doesn't. I've forgotten this part actually.
Yeah. So Voss Park basically Mara knows that they're not going to kill her. They want her for some reason, so they capture her, and they have the East Salamiri everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Voss is talking to Mara and trying to get her on their side because he knows that she knows the current Empire and the current New Republic, and they've been out here for so long that they're kind of out of touch a little bit.
Okay.
And Voss Park is the one who originally found Thrawn and brought him to the Emperor. And then Mara's like, oh, well, Thrawn was kind of kicked out because of political stuff. And they're like, no, he wasn't. It was all instrumented by the Emperor to send Thrawn out to the unknown regions for years. And they took over tons of territory. But he also told Mara, there's 150 threats that would make you just scream if you knew about them, and they're out there, and we need to fight them. And that's that was Thrawn's plan. And he thought that the Empire was strong enough to fight it. Huh. So now they're waiting for Thrawn to come back because Thrawn said 10 years and he'd be back.
That's a 10-year thing.
So they're weary. They're not sure if Bastion's Thrawn is the Thrawn because they don't know about the cloning facility right under their feet that has the Thrawn clone in it. But I thought that was so cool, like them trying to explain, there's stuff out there, and this is, they're not really bad. They're not like the Empire, and that's what she thinks they are. She thinks they're part of the Empire, but they're not. They don't even talk to them. Nobody knows they're there. They're doing their own secret mission out in unknown regions.
Wow.
I don't know. I thought that was one of the coolest parts of the book.
Oh man, I'm so sorry that I don't like it. That it's not it's not a standout moment for me, so we could share the moment.
No, it's fine.
When
I just thought it was cool when the revelation, I guess, of it all.
Right. When you're listening to 26 hours, there's parts where you just kind of have to, to try to remember 26 hours, you kind of go on cruise control a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that obviously is going to stand out for you that, that's a pretty lengthy book. And then if you read it, I'm sure it's even more difficult.
Yeah. Which is cool, explaining the Yuuzhan. They pretty much explain the Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah.
And how they need to, be prepared and fight it. And they're saying that you guys can't fight it like the way you are. But Luke and Mara don't listen. They're like, oh, we'll break out of here. Screw you guys. But it makes me wonder, if they would have listened and, okay, let's team you guys up with the New Republic, what might have been different. I don't really know that whole series, but I know there's a lot of people die. Mm-hmm. So it just makes me wonder, what if they would have took heed to that warning and joined up with them.
This would be the second time that he kind of alludes to the Yuuzhan Vong, as he does the same in the
Flight, right?
Yep, Outbound Flight book.
Because the Chiss knew about all that crap out there,
right? Because they're out on the outskirts,
and even the Chiss warriors that are with Voss Park at that scene, they're like, "You don't know what's out there,"
Kind of like Finn. You don't know. You don't know the First Order like
Flynn,
I do.
Yeah, Flynn.
Oh, Flynn.
Yeah.
I
thought about Flynn.
So that is.
This is cool.
If we kind of carry that down, so these guys survive, Thrawn survives, but also the Emperor survives. The Emperor, let's say, Palpatine survives. I wonder if in our Legends story. Overarching, Legends storyline, the Yuuzhan Vong show up and they bump into Palpatine, who is like this super legit, awesome dark side user. But the Force was worthless. You couldn't use the Force on the Yuuzhan Vong. That's what was so tough about, and that was what was so difficult about dealing with the Yuuzhan Vong. That's really cool.
Makes me wonder, Thrawn was there, if they would have been able to fight him better. Because even when they came up to the cloning container and they were asking, what do we do with him? Mara was like, well, 10 years ago, I would have said, let's kill him. 5 years ago, I'd be uneasy, but now I don't know. Do we keep him alive? Will he be the same Thrawn? Because technically, even Voss Park kind of alluded to it, Thrawn comes back now. He just wanted to be on the stronger side. He wasn't for Empire, he was different than all the Empire people. So it makes me wonder, what if they would have took the clone out and brought him with them? I don't know.
Well, the person that actually does make it all the way through is Pelion, and Pelion plays a huge role in the future of the galaxy, and becomes, in my mind, not just a Thrawn type character. He wasn't like that. He wasn't like super tactician, but very high character, very inspiring character. Not just to eventually the Empire becomes the Galactic Republic, or the GA, the Galactic Alliance, and so we lose Thrawn in this whole thing, but we gain Pelion, and Pelion is like Thrawn light or Diet Thrawn, I don't know, but he's really cool and becomes this really neat character. So that's eventually Luke and Mara will bring the Kamas document that everyone is searching for, bring the Kamas document back, and exposes the true Bothan saboteurs, that the Bothans that turned on Kamas and allowed the Kamas shield to be brought down, and then the Kamasis all died. The planet was blown away by the Empire. So that's that storyline. That's Mark, or that's Lua.
And that one's pretty basic.
That's Luke and Mara. Yeah, it's basic. It's your basic love story with a bunch of weird creatures thrown in there, and it's kind of weird that Baron Fell was in there at the same time Han and Leia are bumping into a bunch of Baron Fell.
Let's go over to that plotline then.
Yeah, we can do that. They bump into a bunch of clones. You want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah,
thread?
That was interesting because I never really did the Rogue Squadron trilogy at all, or not the trilogy, but the whole storyline. I never read any of those. The only part I know from that whole series was iJedi, which we did a couple months ago, which is probably a good thing, honestly, because I knew some more of the stuff, Booster Tarek and Cornhorn and all that stuff. I knew about it. I wouldn't have known if we would have done iJedi, so that worked out.
Cool.
So thanks, Dan and Corey, for suggesting that. That worked out well. But so they're going to Packard Minor for kind of a vacation that they never get. And as they get there, they get attacked by some TIE fighters. And randomly, they get saved by some TIE fighters when they're like crashing down to the planet. And they come across it's basically like a whole family of clones. And it's one of the sleeper cells that Thrawn has spread all over the place. And I didn't know what the clones would have been of. Obviously this book was before the Clone Wars and all that stuff was written, so I was kind of confused by it.
Right.
But I guess they were cloned by Baron Fell, which maybe you can elaborate on more.
Baron Fell was like, the Fell.
He's a pilot, right?
Yeah. But he's in the line of Fells. They're like Imperial. One was like an Imperial. One Fell was like an Imperial Emperor in the future, and like that whole family has Imperial ties all along the Legends timeline, and eventually one of the Fells becomes or falls in love with Jaina Solo. That's how far. I mean, they're not.
So get used to them.
Yeah, get used to the Fells being in the picture. Definitely. So he's trained that particular character, Baron Fell, is actually trained by the Chiss, and so he is basically taken or adopted by the Chiss and trained in strategies the same as Thrawn was trained, and he becomes this really cool character that's an amazing pilot, great tactician, but also this really cool kind of neutral, kind of gray area. He's not part of the Republic, but he actually is. But he actually has an allegiance to the Chiss, not really allegiance to. It's kind of muddy, but to the Republic or whatever. But it's pretty cool. He's a really neat character. But anyway, that's the continuation of the Fell family.
Yeah,
and it goes way into even the 125 years after, into the legacy of the Force, the legacy comic book series as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I thought it was kind of confusing at first, but I kind of went along with it, I guess. But yeah, so they're there, and interestingly enough, they aren't part of the Empire, really.
Nope.
And Han didn't really want to agree with them, and neither did the Noghri. But Princess Leia could see that they were genuine, and they just, they've been there so long, they had families, and they just wanted to be left alone. Right. So they make a deal to make some false information, pretty much, take it to just like an outpost. And this information they knew it was falsified enough to be important. It had to do with the ships from the Hand of Thrawn. So it'd get sent back to Bastion, so Han and them could get Bastion's location to go and try to steal a Kamos document. So that was, and I can't remember his name.
Is that Carib?
Carib, yes.
Yep.
There you go. So yeah, Carib, that was basically his deal up to that point. Then we get Han and Lando and Lobot all going to Bastion, which was kind of interesting there as well. They're looking for the Kamos document as well. So we had everybody looking for it,
and they actually find one. But is that what you're talking about? They actually find one, but it's been changed.
Yeah. So while they're there, they get caught pretty much. But they know they're there. So they're running around. They get away, but Thrawn or Flim is waiting for them at the spaceport. And he gives them a falsified copy and tells them that Phalia has stolen weapons and all this stuff. And now Han believes, that is Thrawn, because he didn't believe Lando in the last book. So they get sent away from Bastion with a falsified copy, which they don't know is false until they look into it more on their ship ride back. That's the basic part of that story. Well, at least with Han until he goes back to Bothui. But part of that story was Han and Leia when we said we started. Leia is a surprise visitor from Kamasi. What's his name? Eklis Akla.
Yeah.
Yep, Akla. And they basically get the message that was supposed to go to Garmbel Iblis that Pelion sent out in the first book.
Right.
So they go to meet Pelion, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool. And I think that's the beginning of Pelion really entering into, like, kind of throwing his hat in the ring as far as the plot weight. And that's where he really comes in, and he goes and he visits Disra, and he starts to find,
because he found out Vermel was basically captured for no reason because a message never got there.
Right, and Vermel is dear to him, and so Vermel has basically been hidden away, so Pelion won't find him because Vermel knows about Disra, he knows the truth and all that kind of stuff. He has information and blah blah blah. So
the peace offering.
The peace offering.
Well, because Vermel was sent out to do the peace offering to Garmbel Iblis, and then they captured him.
That's right. So he never makes it to Garmbel Iblis. That's okay. I see. I remember it now.
Yeah.
And so Pelion's able to free. I don't know if we're getting that far in the story, but eventually Pelion's able to free his friend, and then he goes to deal with Disra and the three amigos.
Which that was interesting. I mean, Pelion going to Disra to find out what happened. Why didn't my message get there? And then he steals the data cards right out of his desk.
Straight out of his desk.
Which is how he found Vermel's location.
And so that was
a lot going on at that scene.
Dude.
Remember that?
Yeah. And there's
Pelion in his office. There's Captain Zothip and his cronies in the Diesel's room.
The pirates.
Yeah, Han and them are running around Bastion. So there's a lot going on.
There was, and that was kind of reminiscent of maybe a lower energy version, or a more subdued version of like maybe Return of the Jedi, where you've got like the Forest Moon of Endor. You've got a battle going on in space above the moon, and then you've got the battle between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. That kind of where there's like multi-layered things kind of going on. That was kind of cool.
Personally, I liked them just scrambling. There's like 3 of them all in each are like swapping rooms and stuff. Like, you go get this room. I can't deal with them. You got to do this. Like Thrawn trying to pretend he's Thrawn and capture them throughout the town, and Diesel is running from room to room, and I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. Those 3 at every scene.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite characters in the book is that Tierce.
Yeah.
But we'll wait. Let's finish his story at the very end. Because that was definitely my favorite moment of the book. Is the conclusion of that particular storyline. How about Talon Card and him going to find George Cardass?
That was an interesting storyline. It was honestly kind of boring for me.
Okay.
Especially when he got to Cardass's house and he was like a sick old man.
Yeah,
and then they're
he
doing
sounded
some
like
space.
The Godfather.
Yeah.
How you doing?
And then they're doing a space battle, which I could care less about.
Right.
And some weird Angti monks come out and blow him out of the sky, and then they go. And then Cardass is like, fine. Then it got interesting for me. It was kind of cool. My only thought was he acted like he never really knew Thrawn that much.
Okay.
So the Outbound Flight is all Cardass and Thrawn.
Yeah, and they were close.
And Zahn wrote that later. So like, what gives?
I don't know.
Wasn't Cardass also in Choices of One as like covered up?
Yeah, and I don't know. Like there was some impurities there as far as continuity. They weren't like straight ahead, like punch you in the nose kind of.
Yeah. And maybe he just didn't want to tell, maybe it was his good friend, so he didn't want to tell Card. We can leave it at that. But
yeah,
I thought it was, it was cool. He had his own little land over there, and especially I don't know if you want to talk about the decision he gave Shada.
To basically
like test,
Yeah, follow your, which path you're going to take, and she's looking for a path with honor, because she's lost her cause basically, and now she's looking for a cause to fight for that is one with honor, and how he did that. She had to make the choice. He couldn't make the choice for her. He presented the dilemma. I thought that was really cool. I agree. It
was like a wisdom move. Like he knew she was probably gonna make the right choice, but she had to make it. Like, here is everything you've been going for, but it'll lead you this path. Here is a different path. You don't know where it'll lead you. Which one do you want to take?
Yep,
that was cool.
It's pretty cool. There's another section there in the Cardass thread about Dagobah and how he ended up losing or running away. George Cardass left his fortune and his business to Talon Card, or to 4 leaders, and then Talon Card eventually took over. But he ended up in Dagobah, which is really cool, because that's where that beck and call was found, at Dagobah, from the Thrawn trilogy.
And not to interrupt you, I think we even talked about how lame that beck and call was when we were going through that trilogy. We're like, what's the point of this stupid thing?
Heck, man? Why were you, whatever came of that? What's
the point of this?
And I remember in Orlando, that's the beck and call. It's like, okay, what does it have to do with anything? But he planted that seed, literally planted it in the mud, to be found later. But here's some other cool stuff. You know how you were talking about the Angti monks and how they showed up and blew everybody out of the sky or out of space? But the Angti monks had this. They were I don't know if they're obviously strong in the Force, but they had this like ability. And this is like the first mention that I remember, as far as I know. Anyway, I'm sure it's been mentioned before. I don't know if Zahn just kind of made this up, but the Ang-T have this. I don't know. They have Jacen Solo later on learns this ability called Ang-T flow walking, and what that is he was able to go to a specific location and go into this like meditation state and go back to the past at that particular location. And the profound moment is when he is at the temple, the rebuilt Jedi temple, and he goes back in time and he's standing there and he watches Anakin Skywalker walk through the temple, and he sees and he feels the emotion in the Force and his angst, and his frustration and his fear of losing Padme. And that is Jacen Solo's justification to, spoiler alert here, for the Legacy of the Force, but his justification to dabble with the dark side. And what eventually happens way in the future after that is that act of flow walking, that act of going back and having an effect on the past, actually brought the Force out of balance to where it basically woke up one of the Celestials, or one of the one of the powerful beings named Abeloth, and then she came back and she was the Force to be reckoned with in the Fate of the Jedi series. And it all starts with this Ang-T monk thing, the Ang-T flow walking thing, and their spiritual monk thing. And it's really cool that we see this every once in a while. We see this in the Legends line, that you see a little thing dropped here, and then another author will pick it up and take the football down the field. Then another author will go somewhere else with it, and eventually you see it like, somewhere along the way there's a touchdown. You're like, man, it all started with that little thing that was just kind of passingly mentioned in this conversation between Cardass and Talon Card. But it's a really important, those people and the monks, the Ang-T are really important in the future.
If you are a huge Star Wars fan, and let's face it, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, and if you love collecting Star Wars, the Star Wars Card Trader app from Topps is for you.
The best part, the Star Wars Card Trader app features incredible images from the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Force Awakens. Every era you love is included on the app.
It's easy and a lot of fun too. Beloved characters, key scenes, and unforgettable moments are in every pack. Open the app every day and get free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina, trade with your friends, and make new ones along the way as you continue to add to your Star Wars collection. And it's all free.
The variety makes it fun too. So chase what you love. Some of the latest packs include poster series, classic comic book series, helmet variety packs, and so much more. There are even exclusive cards you can get by completing sets, as well as special inserts and even autograph opportunities. Don't worry about missing the cards you love either, as you sign up for notifications right on the app.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
What about Nabbit and Cleef, the pet shop owners?
Oh, gosh.
That little storyline.
Yeah, it is.
We got the Z Cliff, or he's like, I don't know what X. I don't know. For those that listen to the book, at least.
Yeah.
And you know what? I feel bad for Mark Thomas because he had like 40 characters. He had to try to
differentiate,
change up. Yeah. And he did a great job. I knew exactly what scene it was when I could hear people, especially the old lady. I forget her name too.
Oh yeah. So that was actually on Bothawi.
Yes.
So Bothawi, there's while all of this other stuff is going on in the galaxy, there are Imperials that want Bothawi to basically go away, and they're trying to tear down the trying to tear down the shield, the planetary shield. You have New Republic representatives and special forces that are trying to protect the shield, protect that location, because the Empire is on their way, and they need that shield down so they can blow up the planet, basically, or attack the planet. So, and I don't know what their motivation is. Maybe they just want, I forget. I honestly forgot what their motivation. Why is it that the Imperials want Bothawi gone? Maybe because...
Well, they knew that if they lowered the shields at the Ashori, they could get them to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the ships up in orbit, too, that were giving out... There were Imperial ships, small ones, that would give out false communications, telling them to fire. So they knew that if they fired a couple shots on the planet, then the Diamala would attack them, and then they get a big space battle going while the planet's getting messed up. And then the Star Destroyers would all come out, clean up the mess, but everybody wipe out the planet, and there'd be no witnesses.
Huh.
So all the rest of the Republic would sit there and be like, well, everybody killed each other, and it'd start a big civil war. So everybody would point the finger at everybody else. That's what I got out of it.
All right, and it was in the Empire's best interest to have a war.
Well, yeah, if they had a civil war, then they could go poach up all these other people. Like, hey, we got Thrawn. You want to join us real quick?
Oh, okay,
you guys are at civil war, and they could slowly pick apart everybody while they're fighting each other.
Okay, all right, that's cool.
But I don't know. It was an interesting storyline, though. Their little pet shop, and you had
the pet shop owners were really cool, and how they use their ability or the animals to tear down the shield, and that was cool. That's one of those ones where I was like, okay, listen to that, so you can get through it, so we can get to the other stuff. But it still had a creativity to it, and was still kind of cool.
I just forget to mention it. They're, especially for those of us that listen to it, there are certain voices that you can't forget.
Yeah, I think that's a German accent. I think
the old lady too.
Oh, the old lady.
I can't believe I forget her name.
I don't have it in my notes anywhere, but she was kind of cool. That she was like a calm, cool, collected special agent that was just smarter because she had all the experience. She was the savvy veteran, if you will. Yeah. So, well, cool. So, anything else that you're thinking of before we get to the Disra, the last of the Disra thread?
Let's go into them. They were fun. They were my favorite part of the book.
Okay, me too.
Just every conversation they had together, it was just, I don't know, it was good.
So we had talked about last episode about the fact that it took 3 people to basically make a Thrawn. And so these 3 people had, they were kind of recreating Thrawn. Flim was his visible appearance. You had Disra, who was the political power behind him. And then we had Tierce, who was the strategy guy, strategery. The strategist behind the whole thing, military strategist behind the whole thing. So it was those 3 characters through all 3 books. Anytime these 3 characters had a scene, it was like, oh, they're back. This is it.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
Very cool. So, so at the very end of their conversation, I know that they're basically over Bothawi. Am I correct?
No, they were at the Yaga Minor.
Okay. Sheesh.
Because Garmbel Iblis was trying to steal a Commas document from Yaga Minor, so he had Booster Tarek's Star Destroyer.
That's right.
But they knew it was a ruse, basically. So they pulled him in the tractor beam, and then Thrawn went on. Booster was trying to pretend he was an Imperial officer, and Thrawn's like, come on, I know who you are.
Or so fake Thrawn.
I feel like he started to get into the role, though.
Yeah.
He wouldn't go to Tierce as the book went on. He would actually use his own strategies and stuff, and he was starting to become it. I guess you could say.
I got that impression.
I felt like he was growing in it, and that was kind of cool to see him growing in the role in the book.
I agree. I thought that was really cool, and he was starting to make judgment calls based on how he thought Thrawn might handle it, and like kind of shooting from the hip, but still calculated at the same time. I thought, man, this Flynn guy's got this Thrawn character down.
Yeah, and it was weird. Like a couple scenes before, it was Pelion, and then Card shows up and says, "Hey, I got something for you," and then that was like the scene. Mm-hmm. And then next scene, we have the Yaga Minor stuff. Talon Card shows up there, and he sneaks behind the enemy lines basically with Pelion's codes and stuff. So then we're met with this scene on the bridge with Isra, Tierce, and Flim or Thrawn, and two what are they called? What is that sect of people called? Why am I blanking on it? Shaded Call was one. Mistrals.
Oh,
one of the 11 Mistrals, and the other one, I forget her name. The one that was trying to kill Shada
at the very beginning. Yeah, the very beginning of the last book. Yeah.
So they're all there, and then Pelion shows up. I don't know if you want to take it from here, but right there, you knew it was going down.
Yeah, and
Pelion was there.
I called you or I texted you. I'm like, oh, dude, and you were still like 8 hours away. I'm like, oh man, just wait, because what's really cool is I'd forgotten the end, how the end kind of plays out. Like I knew eventually that there'd be a peace treaty and all that kind of stuff, but this particular ending, Pelion was there, and wasn't Talon Card there as well?
Yeah, Card went with.
Okay, and so. Man, I'm gonna let you do it. I'll give you my response afterwards.
All right. Yeah, I'll do it then because I just did it an hour ago. Okay. So they're on the bridge and Pelion shows up and he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And they even say like Flim's eyes just widened like in fear, and Isra is like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" He's like, "Hey, this is your admiral." He's like, "Oh, I thought I was Supreme Commander." And he basically pulls out a data card and just starts throwing out the accusations. Basically, this isn't Thrawn. Or he calls him Flim, which is the greatest part. He's like, "Oh, hello." I forget the whole scene. I can't believe I just did an hour ago. But he's like, "Oh, Flim." And Desra just like starts freaking out, even in his voice. At least how Mark Thompson did it. And then at that point, the ruse is off, and he just starts ripping into him. He's like, "Hey, I got the bio codes for Flim. Let's go test him right now." And, what's his name? I think it's Admiral. I think it's Ardith. It's on his ship.
Is he the one with the ring? Is he the one that had?
Well, the one that was running the ship that they were on.
Okay.
The Relentless.
So.
All right, so basically Flim is ousted at that point.
Well, but they're trying to convince this captain or the ship's captain.
Yes, they're basically showing him, "Hey, this is a farce, man. This isn't Thrawn. This is Flim. I got his stuff. He's a con man, and here's his whole record." And then Deezer starts freaking out.
And at this point, I was thinking, "Yep, For some reason, I did not remember. I remember that I'm good to go. I'm like, yep, this is exposing Flim for who he truly is, and and that's the end of this particular storyline.
No,
but then,
not even close. So then he goes on to the next guy, which is Groden Tierce, and he starts to go into where Groden Tierce was actually killed. Oh, what was it? About 10 years ago. And he, they says the whole story. He was a stormtrooper. He rose up through the ranks quickly, but then he was killed. This is, and Deezer even says it right away. "You're a clone."
I know.
And then Tierce, basically the whole ruse is off because of him. He didn't even try to lie. He just went into defense mode. It's like, "Oh, yeah, you just think I'm just a clone." And I don't know if he explained it or Pelion. I think Tierce did. That he was a clone of Groden Tierce, but he was instilled with some of Thrawn's flash learning and some of his abilities.
And that's how he was able to be such a strategist.
Like a super strategy soldier.
Yeah.
That was his whole meaning to be. But then Pelion says he was a failure. The program was a failure because they couldn't lead.
Yep.
And then, and Tyrus is all defensive, saying, I've manipulated you from the beginning. I've orchestrated this whole thing. You guys would be nothing without me. And even Pelion's like, yes, you manipulated him. You didn't lead. And the guy just like goes in like a breakdown, basically.
Yeah. This, out of all of the,
I didn't expect that at all. I thought something
I'd forgotten,
or
either I had forgotten or listened to it long enough to where I was like, clones weren't really a big deal before, because this book came out before episode 1, so we really didn't have this like thing about clones yet. The Clone Wars hadn't even come out, or Attack of the Clones wasn't out. It was still, the only mention of clones was from A New Hope and
Sabayoth,
and I guess Sabayoth was a clone. But as far as like the movies, like we didn't, because I feel like the movies is really what endeared us to the clones, especially like the during the Attack of the Clones and then the cartoon. But this whole like anti-clone, I want to say kind of racism kind of thing. This part right here was my favorite because I was surprised again, or I didn't catch it the first time, that like the gravity of it, that I was like, no way. It's funny when you listen to a book that you've already listened to and you're re-surprised or you
That's
re-enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so, man, I just thought that was the coolest thing. And the fact that he kind of folded in on himself and
it was like unstable. And that's where I thought they'd mention the clone stability stuff, because he like started freaking out and like,
becoming exactly what he was, not what he's created to do, but his weakness kind of was exposed in that moment. And then Flynn was like, hey man, I'm just here for, I'm just here for the role. This is why
he'll be in captivity.
Yeah, that's it.
I love the voices. Was, not to get off track, but man, the voices were perfect. I don't know, to those, I feel sorry if you didn't listen to it, but you should download the audiobook. It was a great journey, just seeing all three of their voices. And he would, especially when he would do I'm just Grand Admiral Thrawn. He would change his voice in mid-sentence certain times, and it was cool.
He's definitely a talented actor, and to be able to, over 26 hours, to be able to kind of spread all of this out, spread all of these characters out and give them a unique, to give them a uniqueness. So when you hear a voice, you know exactly who's speaking.
Captain Zoth.
Just amazing.
Yarr, yarr.
Yeah. He was basically Barbados. Or
He's literally like a pirate. Yeah.
What you tend to do now, Jack?
Yeah.
So, it's...
then Tyrus.
Tyrus was a clone the whole time, and I had no idea, and it was completely blew me away.
Shada.
Go ahead. You were going to say about Shada?
Well, no, just Shada. How Shada kills him too, and just.
Oh yeah,
I felt kind of rushed.
But
kind of random, but
still, it exposed like her like booty kicking like awesomeness. You know, she just.
Who else would have killed him? He had to have her there. I mean,
yep.
Nobody else. I mean, was Pelion going to kill him? I don't think so.
Mops the floor with him. But in his defense, I mean, he was already like his world or galaxy was rocked. Yeah. But she was quicker. She got to him before he could do any damage, and that really showed her skill and her awesomeness. So that was cool.
I like how Pelion offered her a job.
Yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think there's something during the Clone Wars books that has something that has her and Pelion in it, but I can't say for sure. And I'll do a little bit of research and get back to you on that topic. But I think in the future there's a book where she gets captured and he is sent to find her and then find a special agent, and then he finds out that it's her, and they've actually had some sort of a relationship, and he has to declare on the bridge that his ability to make a decision is hampered by the fact that he's had a personal relationship with this person. And so that's one of the scenes that I always remember. And I hope that was way long ago that I listened to that book. I think it's No Prisoners is the name of the book during the Clone Wars era. But anyway, that may even have been written by Karen Traviss, but that's just all right now off the top of my head. So, you know, I'm sure I'm wrong about 50% of the stuff I just said. But so this is some really cool information about this book before we get into our final thoughts. So there were supposed to be 19 books. Bantam Doubleday or Bantam Books was the licensee that basically commissioned all of these books. It started with The Truce at Bakura, and it ended with this book. The very next adult novel, hardcover novel that came out, was Episode 1, written by Terry Brooks, and that was after Del Rey had acquired the license. So they became the new novel licensee. It's really cool to think that Timothy Zahn started the series, or started the Bantam book thing, and ended it. That was always their intention, for him to start and end it, and that it ended with a peace treaty between the Republic and the Empire. And I thought that's really cool. And that Zahn wrote both of those, the beginning and the end. Of course, all the other books in between, and he's written other stuff since then as well. But he was the one that got to close this thing up and button it all up right before Episode 1 came out. So, and that's why it's so large. That's why it's such a big book, because they were rushed to finish it before all the new stories came out. So pretty cool stuff. But what was your overall thoughts on this book?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Of course.
Yeah.
I felt like, there was some parts where it slowed me down, and I was like, ugh, this plot line, nothing's really happening.
Right.
But there was such a jumping around between different ones. The variety was there. And there was so many different things going on at one time. I thought that was cool. And it just, we've already talked about the whole Flim and their whole little three amigos thing was just, it was almost comical, their scenes. Like when they're scrambling around trying to do stuff. Disra has a short fuse. Tierce is just a jerk, and Flim doesn't know what he's doing. It was just a perfect combination, and it felt very organic when they would talk and have conversations. I don't know. It didn't feel, I never felt like a conversation was forced or something didn't fit. It was always organic between how he wrote those characters. I enjoyed it.
And true to the original purpose for the characters, like they never broke. Well, with the exception of Flim starting to become more like Thrawn at the very, very end of the book. But like I always felt like, even if I didn't hear the Mark Thompson version, you could always tell the angle that each one of these characters had just by the dialogue. And he didn't cross over. Like they always had their role, and anytime one crossed into the role of another, there was correction by the three of them. Correction was brought back to, no, this is it. If you get too powerful, you get, Disra gets too powerful, then physically Tierce would challenge him. And then Flim, if he got too clever, then Disra would then correct. There's like this check and balance between the three of them. It was really cool. Yeah. I agree. That's my favorite part of the book as well. That whole storyline.
It felt like, the Thrawn trilogy is so great, and it was the first series we did, which kind of stinks because it's already done, Maybe someday we can go back and do it again, give our thoughts from their first time.
Yeah.
But I really feel like this duology, it felt like it was part of the same story.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like these books were different in a different way. I mean, obviously it's the same writer, and same characters, but it felt like it was meant to be part of the same series.
I agree. And I don't know if I think it's a perfect combination of Zahn being who Zahn is, and then these characters being, who they are, and him representing them so well that he knows how to write all of these characters and to keep them authentic and connected to the movies. And the idea that, some of the characters that he's created are my favorite characters: Talon Card, Mara Jade. Those are some of my favorite characters in the whole Legends storyline. Yeah. So, definitely a huge fan of the Thrawn trilogy and the duology. And I don't know where this rates. Probably up there. Maybe. I don't know, it's so long. He had to put so much. It would have been cool if this was 2 books, and I don't know which one I would have liked if we split this in half, or where that would be a good place to stop.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know. The Zahn books that we've reviewed, this is up there, upper tier.
Yeah, which it sounds bad when I say out of the Zahn books we've done so far, it's probably 5th.
Yeah,
but when you put Outbound Flight and Thrawn trilogy in there, it's like, well, look what it's being rated against.
Yeah,
I think it's better than Spectre of the Past.
Yeah, it's just levels of good. And, and definitely if we, if we say, well, we like one book better than the other that Timothy Zahn has written, he's head and shoulders above everyone.
Maybe my 5th Timothy Zahn book, but it's probably near my top 10 total,
Yeah, out of 180, 200 books or whatever there's been. But I give this an A, 2 thumbs up, whatever we say. And the fact that the sentimental value of it being the conclusion of the Bantam book line and being the end of the Galactic Civil War, and then the beginning of the rest, basically beginning of the rest of the storyline with Mara Jade marrying Luke and all, and the rest, and the setting up the whole idea of the twins and the Solo twins, and all of that happened under Zahn's watch, and it's so cool and so awesome. So yeah, big fan. So I don't know. I don't know where we go from there. Besides our next month and our next book, but that sure is it's a bummer to have the storyline. This is the end of the Zahn storyline right here. So it's kind of sad, a little bit sad, a little bit kind of a bummer. But
luckily we're getting a new one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's the light. That's the light we have.
A new Thrawn book is coming out, so that's really cool. But when we started this, it always felt like, and there still is. We're going to be reviewing a couple more of the Timothy Zahn books coming up in the next couple months, or in the next few months anyway. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there was always a Thrawn something ahead of us. And now here we are at the end of it in the Legends line anyway. It's kind of a bummer. It's kind of sad. I'm like, oh, well, and like you said, it'd be really cool to maybe review, maybe Heir to the Empire or something someday.
Yeah, and just kind of see where our thoughts maybe changed, or.
Yeah. This October was when we started, so we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. So, who knows? Maybe after 3, 4, 5 years, we go back and we revisit that first book again and see how our thoughts have changed. But maybe we'll get a chance to do that again once we run out of books, which is going to happen eventually.
Yeah,
it's just going to take 200 months to do it. So
yeah.
Well, just a quick reminder and a quick congratulations to Lisa Mountain for winning our Legends Library Card 2016 drawing, and she will be our co-host next month as we look at The Rise of Darth Vader, written by James Luceno. And so we're looking forward to that. That's going to be super cool. Luke, why don't you let everybody know how to get a hold of us?
All right, so if you don't know how to get a hold of us, you can head over to Twitter. It's at Legends Library, all one word. Over on our Facebook, it's Legends Library Podcast. And then we also have a couple emails. We have Coffee with Kenobi, so it's legendslibrary@coffeewithkenobi.com. And we also have legendslibrarypodcast@gmail.com if you want to go that route as well. And while you're over there on coffeewithkenobi.com, make sure you check out all the other shows. Rebels Reactions will be starting back up here shortly. That'll be very cool. I want to definitely going to listen to that to see, the opinion of Thrawn and stuff. And
Yep. And you can also find us on YouTube now, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, I saw that they're uploading the episodes on there.
Yeah, and because of that, we had to change the music and change our intro. So I hope you guys like our new intro.
Great work by Randy, and everybody also gave him applause for the new logo as well.
Oh man, it was
spice it up.
It's a labor of love, I'll tell you. Barely know what I'm doing there. Barely. I used everything I knew. That was it. So there's professional people out there that look at this, that look at our, look at the logo like, oh wow, that's it. That's it. That's all I know. There wasn't another thing I knew. But it was a ton of fun. It's always fun to kind of revamp things, and kind of gives me new inspiration, to keep going and to keep reading, and just keep praising the authors and the books, and just the coolness that is the Legends line of books. But
also go over there and check out Lattes with Leia, Comics with Kenobi, and Coffee with Kenobi. So don't want to leave them out.
That's true. Very good. We'll do that. We'll do what you say, Luke. We'll all do that. And as far as this episode, I think we'll go ahead and bring that to a close. What do you say?
All right, let's do it.
Very cool. Well, my name is Randy.
And I'm Luke.
And may the Force be with you.
See ya.
If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.